G'day subscribers, today we're going to talk about wiring harnesses for your FJ Holden. You're with Jules Knight on Jive Talking Garage. Okay, so all of the near 170,000 FJ Holdens and 120,000 or so 48 models, everyone had a wiring harness connected to a light switch with sockets for bulbs and all sorts of things, but everyone had one. Now, in this case, these are a colour with a tracer on them. So that's a pattern or a colour that's on there, and then a wiring diagram is actually in the workshop manual and tells you natural with red tracer goes to this piece. Red wire with black tracer goes to regulator box and which terminal and whatever, all of those sorts of things. So it was a cotton covered loom with shellac or varnish, and then it was covered in this tape. So this was made by a company called Disco, who also made the AC Delco spark plugs under license from AC and supplied them to General Motors. Now they were in the same street, I understand, in Fisherman's Bend, and they were just literally down the road. And so as a consequence, in 1950, General Motors just bought them out because they were getting too much stuff off them. So it was made sense to them to supply themselves. So really, you can see a cotton wiring harness was par for the course all the way through from 1948. Now we're talking about Holden, 1948 through till 1956. Now you will see some, excuse me, Louie. Louie, please come up here. Leave Jasper alone, he's your brother. Anyway, while they're having a sort out on who should be the supervisor, now we move from the cotton covered wiring harness to when the FE was introduced. So, Louis, please. Thanks for telling me. Jasper's fine. Now, let's get back on the track of forgetting about dogs and talking about wiring harnesses. So the FE was made alongside the FJ Ute and the FJ panel van. So given that Disco had already started making plastic wiring harnesses for the 12 volt because they weren't using cotton covered anymore, well, they made PVC covered for FJ during the transition period. So I had one on a Ute and one on that panel van. So here's the one on my van. And so here we have the second type of wiring harness, still made by Disco as a General Motors subsidiary. Now you can see adopting the same colour, colours that are used. You can see the natural with a red tracer there and so on. Now the Brains Trust have put new tape over mine and also done the install. You can see the original wires that are coming there. So this car was built alongside the FE. So the FE was the first Holden that came out after the FJ, and it was a 12 volt, so it was the first 12 volt Holden. And because the FJ panel van and the FJ utilities were built on the same assembly line, when they ran out of the cloth wiring harnesses, the cotton covered cloth, they could use the wiring harnesses that were PVC, and they've adopted the same colors that are in the workshop manual for the wiring diagram. So this is and they obviously go inside at this point into the wiring the wiring harness goes into the cabin here and into the cabin behind the regulator box here. But this is the second type, the first one being the cotton covered cloth wiring harness, and then this one, the PVC wiring harness. So as you can see, primarily the same. They're just using a different medium for the cover on the loom, and that's fine. Now, the third type you could get is, say for instance, your FJ Holden had a wiring failure. Well, your auto electrician down at the Shell service station could and would just make you a new one, and they would just make it from scratch. Auto electricians can do all these things because they're pretty clever people. So that's the third type of wiring harness you'll see. So cotton covered, PVC, both genuine. Then the ones that have been made by an auto electrician to repair something that was broken. Now, and probably more prevalent for today, is the fourth type. So there's shops that actually specialise in this. So you can go to them and you can get a brand spanking new wiring harness. Now you can see all of the different tracings and how brand new everything is. It's covered in the right tape, and it has the right tubing, the plastic tubing where it needs to be for the connectors and so on. There's 2 lots of tubing from memory, but it's all there. So that's all there. That's a standard front cabin wiring harness. Now, coupled to that, your wiring harness comes, if you're driving the car, part of the wiring harness will come up and over the A-pillar, through the A-pillar, up and over the top of the door, down the back of the door, down the B-pillar, and then come out the bottom through a grommet, and then that goes to the stoplight and the tail light. And that's what these wires are for. Tail, Ute, Bosch, and it's got the number there. And you can see, you know, it has the same type of tracings and markings as what's actually used in the workshop manual. So pretty good, very good actually, very good. And this is terrific if you are restoring a car and you're trying to make it showroom condition. I mean, gee whiz, what more do you want? So look, that being the case, cabin wiring harness, tail light wiring harness, it's all there. Now the other thing that you're going to need is the wires come into the engine bay, and they have a termination block, a connector block either side of your radiator. Now what that does is that runs your headlights. So you need an earth, a park light, low beam and a high beam to tell it what to do. So they're the 4 things. So what you then need are pigtail wires. Well, you can get these at about $50 or whatever, and you can get them in either cotton or PVC. Now you will have seen mine on the second part of the video has the PVC ones, whereas this one is copper, and you can see the natural wire with the green and the black tracer and so on, such that, you know, they will get stripped and put onto the connector socket for the bulbs, and then that goes against the back of the headlight bucket. But these are called pigtails. So the pigtail goes from either side of the radiator. There is a driver's side and a passenger side, and they go from the radiator support panel, connector block either side, through to each of the headlights. So as a consequence, that is the electrical system on a 48 model or an FJ, and every single one of them's got them. Now that's the standard. Obviously, you know, if you want to get fancy and have all sorts of customized wiring and whatever, sure. However, this is the standard that I can talk to. So tonight we've talked about the standard wiring harness, the old pulled out one, what it looks like, how it performs. We've then talked about the PVC version of it on my FJ. We've then gone to the one made by the local electrician. Works perfectly fine. And then I've shown people the one that is the restorer's choice at the moment, which is being remanufactured and available for purchase through retail outlets. So that gets people back to stock where they need to be. And like me, if things are stock, you can use the workshop manual and you can find your way through things, and it sort of makes sense. But that's us talking about wiring harness. Don't forget, share, like and subscribe, but more importantly, enjoy your Holden.